Mainstream media outlets, from the New York Times to CNN, wasted no time placing the blame for coronavirus at the feet of President Trump. Instead of giving the American public critical and potential life-saving information on heels of the first American death from the coronavirus, many of the mainstream could simply not resist the opportunity of attacking President Trump and his administration. At the onset, John Davidson of The Federalist observed how quickly the virus became political. He even predicted that we should expect the media to start stoking hysteria, the politicians to pile on recriminations, and for everything, the disease itself and its after effects on public life to get much worse.
Indeed, it has gotten worse, but the media is not stoking hysteria in a way that would push Americans to take sensible precautions. Mainstream outlets have instead responded with coronavirus stories that lie and misrepresent Trump and his administration's response to the virus. Journalists have cheered on the spread of the virus and its potentially devastating effects as a way of validating the horrors of a Trump presidency, not to mention a Trump re-election.
This article by Madeline Osborne of The Federalist, she reveals 9 times the media weaponized coronavirus coverage to attack President Trump. We will show that without a shadow of a doubt how they purposely misled and misinformed the public. We submit that these reckless and extremely irresponsible actions have only furthered the growing alarm and panic in this country. The article was originally published on March 2nd, 2020, and just 9 days later, President Trump addressed the nation on the crisis. He announced that the U.S. would restrict travel to and from Europe, as well as implementing sweeping economic relief packages to Americans and businesses as we navigate through this unprecedented event in our nation's history. As you watch this video, understand that at the time of this video taping, none of the falsehoods have yet to be retracted from their sources. Let's begin. Number 1. The Washington Post columnist lies about Trump's hoax quote.
Washington Post columnist Dana Milbank tweeted 8 times this weekend about a now debunked claim that President Trump deemed the coronavirus as a hoax at his campaign rally in South Carolina. As is often the case with the media reactions to Trump quotes, an examination of the president's remarks in context not only proves the reporting inaccurate, but also reveals Trump to be right about whatever controversial subject is in play.
Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that. They're politicizing it. One of my people came up to me and said, Mr. President, they tried to beat you on Russia. That didn't work out too well. They couldn't do it. They tried the impeachment hoax. That was on a perfect conversation. They tried anything. They tried it over and over. They've been doing it since you got in. It's all turning. They lost. It's all turning. Think of it. And this is their new hoax.
Trump in South Carolina just called the coronavirus a hoax, Milbank tweeted. If you are pushing the narrative that Trump called coronavirus a hoax, you're lying. It's pretty obvious what he's saying here. As if right on cue, the very Democrat who organized the Russian, Ukrainian, and impeachment hoax against the president, Representative Adam Schiff, sounded off about his profound concerns about Trump's response to the coronavirus. The president and the vice president don't inspire confidence, Schiff told Fox News. As demonstrated in this very article, Democrats and their media allies are indeed using the coronavirus misinformation and hysteria to falsely charge Trump. It's clear he was not calling the virus itself a hoax, but its abuse as a political talking point. Despite its inaccuracy, Milbank's tweet is still up, along with 7 others about the hoax quote. It must be too painful to delete a misleading tweet if it has 162,000 likes.
2. Political reports Trump calls coronavirus liberal conspiracy.
Political reporters Nancy Cook and Matthew Choi also mislead readers with the headline, Trump rallies his base to treat coronavirus as a hoax. He sought to deflect blame at a time when many Americans sought leadership and scientific facts, the story reads, ignoring the multiple press conferences Trump held with Centers for Disease Control officials to explain new travel restrictions and other precautions.
3. New York Times calls it Trump virus.
In a not-so-subtle headline, New York Times columnist Gail Collins suggests who is to blame for the coronavirus. Hint, it's not China where the outbreak all started.
4. Trump makes us ill.
Another New York Times headline directly placed the blame on Trump. Trump makes us ill.
5. Paul Krugman celebrates plummeting markets.
Concerns about global supply lines have disrupted the previously skyrocketing stock market. The Dow dropped down to 25,000 last week, and to New York Times columnist Paul Krugman, it was an opportunity to celebrate.
6. Washington Post columnist says media isn't doing enough to combat Trump on virus info.
The Washington Post's Margaret Sullivan took the blame Trump storyline a step further when she charged the media with helping him spread his lies. In her op-ed, Sullivan lamented Trump's disdain for scientists, medical experts, intelligent officials, journalists, and others who deal with fact-based reality. Never mind the White House's coronavirus task force and Vice President Mike Pence's appointment of Ambassador Debbie Birx as the new response coordinator. As noted in The Federalist Monday, Birx is a physician researcher and former HIV/AIDS program chief at the Department of Defense, and then at the CDC, where she is respected for her unparalleled leadership of the life-saving global AIDS program, first established by President Bush in 2003, and under both the Obama and Trump administrations. Birx's appointment more than defies this alleged disdain for scientists or medical experts. Sullivan concludes with this jaw-dropping statement. I'm convinced that we in the media, with all of our obvious faults, have learned some things about covering Trump over the past 4 years. Now would be an excellent time to put it all in practice.
7. Media lies about Trump muzzling infectious disease experts.
The New York Times reported last week that Dr. Anthony Fauci, the head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, has told associates that the White House had instructed him not to say anything else without clearance. On ABC's This Week, former Vice President Joe Biden repeated this claim.
You have this president hasn't allowed his scientists to speak, number one. He has the vice president speaking, not the scientists who know what they're talking about, like Fauci.
This president hasn't allowed his scientists to speak. He has the vice president speaking, not the scientists who know what they're talking about, like Fauci, he said. Dr. Anthony Fauci, despite these claims at a White House briefing on Saturday, saying he had never been muzzled by the White House. I've never been muzzled, and I've been doing this since Reagan, Fauci responded. That was a real misrepresentation of what happened.
8. On ABC, Biden makes false claims about scientists and test kits.
ABC anchor George Stephanopoulos let Biden make multiple false claims about Trump's coronavirus response without any pushback. In addition to his claim about the muzzling of Dr. Fauci, Biden claimed that the government has not prepared a test kit to determine if anyone has the virus.
Number two, they haven't even prepared a test kit to determine whether or not anybody has the virus. They're not even available.
They haven't set up a pattern for how to proceed. They cut the funding for the CDC. They tried to cut funding for the NIH, Biden claimed. They eliminated the office that we, the Obama administration, set up in the president's office to deal with pandemic diseases.
They haven't set up a pattern on how to proceed. They've cut the funding for the CDC. They've cut the Center for Disease Control. They've cut the funding they tried to cut the funding for NIH, the National Institute of Health. They have eliminated the office we set up in the president's office.
To give some media credit where it is due, the Associated Press fact-checked both Biden and Mike Bloomberg for false claims, finding that the National Institute of Health and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention aren't suffering from budget cuts that never took effect. Additionally, there is a pandemic preparation plan in our public health system. The CDC already has a 52-page plan in place. The Food and Drug Administration announced Saturday they would be allowing more labs to immediately begin testing for the coronavirus.
9. Majority of CNN's coronavirus coverage focuses on Trump.
An analysis of CNN's coronavirus coverage by the media research found most of it, at least 60%, was spent inviting guests to criticize the president with questions like, do you think the administration, the White House, would be better served, though, if they had someone, I don't know, like Dr. Lucinia Borio, in the position that you had held? Or is Pence the best equipped to lead this effort at the White House?
Do you agree that Ms. Osborne, when she writes, many members of our corporate press only sees the public health crisis as another opportunity to attack the president? Or do you see things completely differently? Please comment below and let us know. And if you enjoy the content on this channel where we take culture, TV, and movies while filtering them right, please hit that like and subscribe button, the bell icon, and please share with your friends. It really helps to grow the channel.